So the first thing is to listen. I think that this is the main goal, to listen to people we accompany, to people with which we serve and we work, to listen to them and see what challenges they have, be it refugees, displaced people, indigenous people. You have many experiences, I'm sure, working in GIAN or in the social centers all over the world. Of the cry of the people, the cry of the poor, no? Later, I will be sharing the landmine campaign, and we have been listening throughout the years to the landmine survivors who have been really agents and actors of the campaign. So maybe we can listen about basic human needs or psychological trauma, lack of social networks, discrimination, restrictions in the right to work or to move. The reliance on handouts and dependency can be an issue. So first of all, we listen. We listen. And I think in the Society of Jesus, we have this immense potential to be really close to the people. And the fact of being local, but also regional and international, offers us a great potential to advocate for the people we serve at different levels. So locally, nationally, regionally, and at a global level. But first of all, we need to listen to the people because this is key. We cannot just interpret or say what we think the people need. So defining the goals is really key. To define the recommendations by setting the goals. And as you know, the goals need to be all this sort of circle of characteristics. They need to be specific, not abstract. They need to be achievable, so quite realistic. I mean, the peace in the world is great, but how are we going to achieve that ceasefire, that peace that we are seeking? Measurable, time bound. So all these things are very important in the phase where you set your goals. And you need to think always, we need to think in the change we want to see. So to make sure our goals are clear and reachable, each one of us should be thinking, what specific goals do we want to achieve? It might be obvious, but it's really key. And to go back again and again to the goal. In terms of strategy, I think it's really important to identify the right targets and partners. So thinking of these questions is key. Who can make a difference on this issue? So what partners may we want to address? Human rights organizations at a local level. What are the targets' strategic interests? Are these interests similar to ours, or are they different, or are they totally different? This we need to understand. An example, right now we are listening to all these horrible narratives about mass deportations. We heard yesterday a horrible discourse, and with all this invasion and this narrative about invasion of migrants, invasion of people. And if it is true that it is really deplorable, we also need to understand what is in the back of the minds of the 77 million people that have voted Trump. No, we need to understand. So we need to understand those interests too. It is important to address them. How can we influence policymakers and others in our community to take action on our issue? Who are our partners and allies, and how can they get involved? These are really important questions. So in any meeting, you need to first list all these things. And the third is, how will we communicate our policy recommendations? These are the sort of the way of proceeding, the methodology, no? So we need to consider the steps that need to be taken to achieve our project goals, right? So possible activities can include... Patricia, can you turn? Thank you. Meetings, can be letters, can be campaigns, can be targeted op-eds, it might be litigation or statements or draft legislation, radio shows, podcasts, videos, social media, press conferences, many, many different possibilities to communicate and to make the next steps. This is part of the strategy. Later, I will give you some tips that we have been learning about how to prepare a good meeting. An important thing in my humble experience, because I also think advocacy is really difficult work, but something that we need to go back again and again is to the goals and to rethink again and again our advocacy target. So any advocacy campaign or project can be lots of work, but it is important to stop and re-examine the goals and the activities. So maybe in a meeting with your colleagues, think and define our activities advancing towards the long-term goals. Do we need different resources? Do we need different partnerships? Is this partner a good partner really? Or have we identified a new partner that could jump in this campaign? Or do we need to change the tactics? Is this campaign working? Is this sort of a communication strategy working? We need to rethink our advocacy. This is very important. It's not written in stone. So now we bring all these pieces together, and as we have seen, our advocacy pitch or advocacy sort of project should include these elements. I think they should include experiences of the reality on the ground. So in all we do, we start with the reality. So draw from positive and negative aspects, from testimonies, the voice of the people, our own experiences in monitoring or reporting. I think it's important to have good practices that we have employed in response to these challenges, and recommendations to governments or other actors, can be private sector, business, authorities, healthcare providers. And something that is important is that the recommendation is detailed and convincing. So as much as possible, they should include words or ideas such as articulate, support, commit to, initiate, identify, integrate, all these things. An example, you can start a letter or a recommendation, an action point suggestion, going to the root causes and explaining a bit the origins of this problem and the intersections with these other justice issues that have been deeply shaping the current situation, no? Also explaining the current efforts that we are addressing and what avenues are open. So to alleviate, to address, to improve, to lessen this situation. And then always finishing by recommendations such as moving forward, we recommend such and such. In terms of meetings, I think there is a bit of not a very healthy use of meetings. Sometimes we do meetings without a specific goal. So let me just share some of the things that we have been learning these years. And let's take, for example, a meeting with a decision maker. What elements should we bring to this meeting? So the first thing is to understand the expected outcome. What do we want out of this meeting? This is important, no? To have our goal out of this meeting. Also, to have a clarity on the people we are speaking to. It's very important to go to Google and get the background information on this ambassador or this person. For example, I have been working a lot on the conflict on Myanmar these past years. We will soon it will soon be 4 years of this horrible war. And I work a lot with ambassadors here in Rome to the Holy See. And one of the ambassadors, the ambassador to the Holy See from the United Kingdom, happened to be in Myanmar in the 90s, and he has a sort of a very compassionate and a great knowledge of the country. So for me, understanding, the background of this ambassador was key, because we could speak sort of the same language, and he was very compassionate, and he was very sort of open to listen to the people and to listen to our people on the ground. And he's also very open to pass on every message and every recommendation we make to his government. So it is important to understand who are we talking to. It's very important in a meeting to prepare a clear set of advocacy asks. So it's not only about sharing information, explaining what we do in Myanmar, but, really what we want out of this interaction with this government or this journal or this ambassador. So a clear set of advocacy asks, which can be then sent by letter after the meeting to the person. So they can be used both for us to prepare our meeting, but also those notes to send them after our meeting. This is very important, because I think everything needs to be written, no? Just one page with the clear points. This is what we have been discussing in our meeting, and the clear advocacy asks. And of course, sharing the contacts after the meeting. So building this local capacity or relationship is key. So just a little summary of the practical tips for meetings. So prepare a sheet with the structure of the meeting. Important to introduce one another in the beginning, as Daniela has been doing with us today. If it's a physical meeting, it will be important to prepare the room, think of the seats according to protocol, water and coffee, prepare documentation, things that we want to share with this person, maybe an article or a report we have been working on, contact cards, or if we have. Identify an experienced moderator who can, very, very important, wrap up the meeting with action points. So next steps will be this, this, and this. And as I said before, send a summary with the action points. I think this is the most important part of the meeting. So identify a note taker. I think that's important too, but especially the question of sharing the notes and the action points after the meeting. So let's go to the good practice now. This sort of final part of my presentation is just to share with you what I think has been a really good practice of advocacy, which is the 1997 Ottawa Convention to ban landmines. You might be in a country listening to me where there are landmines. Right now, so many countries are producing but are suffering the presence of landmines. And we still see this evil happening in places like Myanmar. We have seen this in Palestine, in Libya recently, also in Ukraine. So it is a real issue, and it is a reality that many people suffer, and it hinders the return of refugees, the return to peace, and the progress and the development of many territories and nations. So the convention is called, it has a very long name. It's a Convention on the Prohibition of the Use, Stockpiling, Production, and Transfer of Anti-Personnel Mines and their Destruction. It is an instrument of international law that prohibits all these things. So not only the production, but also the stockpiling, the transfer, and of course the use of anti-personnel mines. As Father Eric said, I have had the privilege to be living and working in Cambodia together with the Jesuits that are there, the Cambodia the Cambodian Jesuit mission, but also the Jesuit Refugee Service in Cambodia, and also with Bishop Quique Figaredo, who is a Jesuit who is from Spain, but has been there for 40 years. And he's now the apostolic prefect of the Diocese of Battambang in the northwest of the country. And so I've been seeing the evil of landmines. I've been seeing the children and women having accidents. When I lived there were like 4 accidents a day. This was in 2003, 2004, 2005. Right now there is 1 accident per day, but still it's a lot. If you think of the war ended in 1998, no? But this process of the convention is an example to me of multilateralism. As Pope Francis says, we need examples of people working together, nations working together. And to me, it's an example to a renewed call for the banning of landmines worldwide. As I said, still happening and still need to be cleared in countries like Myanmar, Ukraine, or Iraq. So this convention is the result of the Ottawa process. It was a freestanding process of treaty negotiation outside of the United Nations process. So it was called the Ottawa Convention, or the process, because it was launched by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada. So Canada was a really good partner and ally. And this started in 1996. It was also a cohesive and strategic partnership of governments, international organizations. So the International Red Cross was a key partner, UN agencies, civil society, but especially the voice of the survivors. Here, I think this has been key, and it's still key. That the survivors were really the first actors and advocates of this convention. And it has been really the key to success. All these people and institutions were united in what is called the International Campaign to Ban Landmines, which is called the ICBL. Today, also the Cluster Munition Coalition is part of this campaign. So we not only target the use of landmines, but also of cluster munitions, which are all these bombs that have not exploded, but can be very, very dangerous. In Cambodia, for example, children took the bombs as if they were balls, and they just exploded in their hands. No? So as I was saying, the voice and the advocacy of the survivors was key to success. And all this gave birth to a unique, historic, and I can say unorthodox multilateral achievement, which was the 1997 Ottawa Treaty to ban landmines. And later on, this campaign was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, which was also a landmark. So if we go back to all the steps that we have been seeing regarding the goals and so on, I think what was key here is who could make a difference on banning landmines. So again, I think to identify both internationally and locally, the governments which could be allies, such as the government of Canada, Austria, also international organizations such as ICRC, and locally, the so many human rights organizations, that was really key. We also needed to understand what were the strategic interests, because of course, nations like the US or India were not at all interested in banning landmines because they were the first producers. But we also saw that countries like Italy or Spain produced landmines, and through this campaign, we targeted countries which were producing landmines because they had committed to sign and to ratify the convention. Also, the fact that ICBL influenced policymakers and others was key, because one of the things that still we continue to do as ICBL is to try to convince countries to sign and ratify the convention. And again, it was key to identify the right partners and allies. I remember an organization like Human Rights Watch was really key, because they were they have an arms department with really very good people and very knowledgeable, but also academics and universities who could really do research on the implications and the impact on the lives of the people. This was really important. So just to share some photos of these years, here you have an anti-mine march in Phnom Penh with mine survivors and humanitarian workers. This Bantiai Prib was the Jesuit center close to Phnom Penh, where Jesuits, collaborators, and mine survivors lived together. It was a sort of a vocational training center, and they became all advocates of this cause. Bantiai Prib is still today the Jesuit center where mine survivors get together and to receive vocational training, but also they continue advocating against landmine production. Of course, a great ally has been the church with its many ramifications locally, regionally, and Pope Francis, but also Pope John II, as you see in this photo, was really key. This is our friend Tuncha Naret in the wheelchair, who was a mine survivor and our best advocate, with Quique Figaredo, a Jesuit you might know, who has been really an inspiration, an advocate against the use and especially the evils of landmines. And next to him, Sovan, he's a Cambodian layman who continues to work with mine survivors in Phnom Penh. He has been really active. And as I said, mines are being still used in Myanmar, Ukraine. This is a girl in Sri Lanka I photographed years back. Lastly, this is Tuncha Naret, as I said, receiving the 1997 Nobel Peace Prize on behalf of the campaign. Ret is still active in this campaign, and lately there has been a very important meeting in Siem Reap, Cambodia, an international meeting where Tuncha Naret was key in speaking. And on the 2nd of December 2024, and at the UN General Assembly, a record number of states voted in favor of the Annual General Assembly resolution in support of the implementation and universalization of the Mine Ban Treaty. So with a vote of 173 countries in favor of the Mine Ban Treaty, this important humanitarian disarmament convention received the highest level of support it has ever had. So we continue to work with landmine survivors against this evil use of landmines. So in summary, what I want to just share with you is that the advocacy we carry out in JRS and beyond is based on being close and, as I said, listening to the people concerned, supporting their hopes, their aspirations, their challenges. I think that seeking opportunities to advocate for those whose needs are forgotten. So I think it's really key to go to those who are totally forgotten and those for whom no one is speaking. In JRS, we try to do this regarding forgotten conflicts. Many countries are forgotten, such as Myanmar. Addressing both the immediate needs, but also the long-term policy objectives. So doing, I think research is very important. Giving people the opportunity to tell their stories, the example of Tuncha Naret, this man in the wheelchair, is just an example, but testimonies, the voice of the people, can really make a difference. I think our role as advocates is to create spaces of dialogue between the centers of power and those who want to bring about positive change. Part of my work is a lot about articulating the voice of the people concerned or local organizations in a way that it can be tailored to the international level, but also on the other way around, tailoring our approach to make it appropriate to local conditions. So reflecting on local needs, resources, and opportunities, and prioritizing our efforts on the basis of the value that we can give to supplement the work of others. So we need to understand, you know, the difference we can make vis-a-vis the work that others like Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, or any other humanitarian organization is doing. This is important too. Of course, it's not about statistics, it's about the real people, as Pope Francis says. Pope Francis is really our best advocate as far as migrants and refugees are concerned. I think we really count on his voice, and that is why I am sort of seconded to the dicastery, and I support the work of the dicastery for promoting integral human development as much as I can, precisely because he is our best ally and our best advocate, as I said. This is just some resources you might want to share and to use. There is an interesting number of the Comillas Journal of International Relations, which is called the Society of Jesus in International Relations. It's the second here, where you can find an article about the Mines campaign, what I shared with you today. Thank you very, very much. And I look forward to listening to you, to your questions, to your experiences, and anything you want to share. Thank you very much.